Greeting everybody, this is Ishwari J with the Change Agent TV, and this is
Stephen Ehlinger.
Stephen Ehlinger, my partner in business and in life. Sorry, I put a little bit of, of lipstick. So welcome to this live broadcast entitled 7 Keys to Using Business as a Vehicle for Change. So I'd like to begin with a couple of things. I'd like to do a little centering technique, and then I'd like to share a little bit about who I am and why the hell are we talking about these 7 keys to using business as a vehicle for change. Like, what's our background, how we come to receiving this information and wanting to share with you. So we'll share a little bit about background, and then we'll go straight into the 7 keys. Is that a good plan?
That's a plan.
Yeah. So, but I can't wait to introduce to you this amazing man. But for now, why don't we sit very comfortably, like the sitting bones are really grounding onto the seat. If you're sitting on a chair, you can uncross your leg and have your feet parallel to each other on the floor, or you can be seated cross-legged on your chair as well, as I am actually. And let's all close our eyes. I'm going to speak up a little bit to make sure you can hear me well. As you close your eyes, you have a greater ability to be aware of your other senses, so you can be expanding your awareness. Expanding your awareness to the quality of your breath coming in and out through your nose, allowing your belly to inflate, the back of the rib cage, the side of your body, to take more air in, to invite more of this pranic force, this enlivened energy that keeps us alive, and exhaling long, releasing what we don't need. Breathing in deeply and breathing out long. To me, when I inhale, it's the divine consciousness that breathes into me. And that's an energy of pure grace. And when I breathe, I make an offering. When I breathe out into consciousness, into that divine ally, I would call the divine ally. Because when we build business that create an impact in the world, more than any other businesses, we need to have the ally of that bigger energy. Call it consciousness, call it spirit, call it God. Whatever you name it, it all begins like that, from that connection. Another deep breath in, and let it out. And you may open your eyes when you're ready, and just look around and notice the difference when the mind gets quiet. Isn't it brighter?
Wow. It's totally bright.
So, like, if we can turn up the juice and have life more juicy, more of everything. Juicy, yeah. Oh,
Juicy.
happy smoothie. Cheers. We are re-recording this because we're on beta phase of this launching of the Change Agent TV, and so we have had technical difficulties with the sound, and so we're recreating at a different time, which is morning time, which is smoothie time. Stephen and I. By the way, if you want the recipe, let us know. I'll send it to you. I'd like to share a little bit about our background before we start with the 7 keys, just briefly, so that who are we to talk about making change. But again, start with me real briefly. So Ishwari J, I've been a serial entrepreneur since 2004, right after my head-on collision car accident. Where I had sort of a near-death experience, and Spirit was telling me, match your value of freedom that you have on the spiritual level, on your physical level. And to me, because I came from a family of entrepreneur, my dad left school, he was 16 and decided he'll never have a boss, and built a very successful business on his own, had a business partner after who joined him, and so it's sort of in our blood. But I wasn't playing that game because I was sort of in the spiritual la la land, if you wish, you know, got a spiritual awakening really young in age, and I just wanted to live in that etheric world. I checked off a little bit, and so it brought me back to saying, yeah, freedom on the inner world needs to match the outer world, and vice versa. By the way, you may be somebody who actually did the opposite in your journey, work on freedom in the physical world. You had wonderful career and wonderful family, and then you realize something's missing. So I flipped that generality where people figure out the material first and the spiritual second. And so from 2004, I ended up I was thirsty. I wanted to learn from the greatest mentor. You know, I have this arrogance that I always want to go to the top, always to the top. And so my mentor were always the top. If I was to be mentor for marketing, would go to the top marketer. For business, top achiever, you know, whatever, you know, area. And then I built a successful marketing business when I moved to San Diego in 2005. No, actually, I had a yoga and health business before. 5 years later, I built a marketing business, and then I moved here, and we had a coaching business, online, offline, and then Stephen and I met, and Stephen, and so what I was going to say in my coaching business is I had a lot of consulting with a lot of conscious entrepreneur, and I sort of categorize a lot of things that I saw in, they're saying we want to make an impact. There were just inconsistency in the impact. And I sort of made a list, a checklist, which is part of the keys. So that was the gap. And then also I had a meditation one day when I didn't want to do a marketing anymore and didn't know where to turn to. What's the next project, or what's the next passion? I was a little bit in this dark, you call it the dark night of the soul, and that was actually recent when I stopped the marketing business. And this meditation told me, you're playing too small, play a bigger game. And what brought me chill, what kind of bigger game, was to come up with this idea to help conscious entrepreneur, impact investor, come as a network to help be the greatest force of good through their businesses. It literally made me cry when I had this awareness, and I didn't know how to. And so we're in beta phase with the TV, and we're totally receiving information on what's the next alignment. So it's a beautiful co-creation. Sorry for the long explanation. I think it was good that I explained it right. Okay. And so Stephen, you've done so much in the entrepreneurial world. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ishwari. Good morning, everyone, and grateful to be here with the Change Agent TV and participating in with Ishwari on this vision that she had, and I share similarly in that vision. And I would say, you know, my journey has been multicolored in that I've been in many different settings in my business life over the last 25 years that have included Fortune 500 companies as well as entrepreneurial ventures of my own and in supporting others. And I would say my jump into entrepreneurial ventures and into something that I would really catalyze as conscious business really happened in 2001. Similar to Ishwari, my spiritual awakening happened in 1990 when I was 25 years old, and that really shifted my whole view of life entirely, which of course included my business life, and that started a journey of curiosity for me of where the two actually blended. And my big jump into something that was more conscious and had a positive impact on life and the world began with Ecomedia in 2001, and co-founded a company that dedicated itself to solving a major problem in this country of funding large-scale environmental initiatives at no cost to the taxpayer, and because municipalities are really struggling. And so developed an economic model there that sourced funding through media to get to these municipalities to do important work in the world. And so it's a very gratifying model. It's still thriving in the world. It's the fastest growing division at CBS Corporation, who acquired Ecomedia. And so that's an exciting venture to go from 2 guys in a room all the way to 60 full-time employees in New York and Los Angeles, to being acquired by CBS and watching that venture expand and grow. And now that same economic model funds education and well-being in addition to environmental initiatives. So that model lives on and is continuing to proliferate in the world, which is fantastic. After that, I started a consulting practice because I was very passionate about this curiosity that had grown in me. I was like, well, I was noticing my spiritual heroes and my business heroes had some similarities, but it was like oil and water. It was like, oh, well, do not bring spirituality into the boardroom, and do not bring the boardroom into spirituality, was kind of my observation. It was like, well, wait a minute, you know, you guys are all talking about the same thing, but you use a different language. You know, it's like C-suite executives and entrepreneurs speak about qualities of business and how to lead organizations into thriving possibility in the world, you know, from the same acumen, really from the same place in our hearts that spiritual leaders speak from, and that they're tapping into this source of creation. And so my journey with integrated management consulting, which started in 2007, has been all about working with conscious entrepreneurs and visionary entrepreneurs in birthing their models into the world. So supporting, how do we create enlightened structures? How do we create new forms of business so that we can create the greatest impact in the world? And so anyhow, that's my background. Most recently, I developed a new economic theory called the Holonomic Perspective, and I'm currently co-founder of A-List Hub, which is a model to support the event industry. So I'm very excited to be on that venture, and of course, journeying here with Ishwari in her evolution with the Change Agent Hub. And so I'm super excited to be participating in this venture as well. Yeah.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
What an amazing background.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And you didn't even tell our listener, how much were you successfully did you raise over your career?
So my background really is in finance and economics, and so one of the
still being too humble.
One of the primary catalysts of that has been structuring financing for startup and early stage businesses. And so aside from raising $29 million to build Ecomedia, I've raised well over $100 million for many different ventures through my consulting work at Integrated Management Consulting. So that's a big part of my journey, is how to properly structure capital, how to attract capital, how to properly formulate a business plan and a business model to really attract that. But then more importantly is how to flow that, which is really economics. Economics is about the allocation of resource. Mm-hmm. So it's not only attracting resource, but then what do we do with it once we have it? And so that's another big place to bring mindfulness and consciousness to, is particularly in the area of money and finance. So exactly.
So thank you for hearing your background, because I think it gives you a little bit a better context. And as a partnership, we really match this value of being really in alignment with our values and and to have the utmost integrity when it comes to being in alignment with who we are as, call it change agent, call it game changer. There's this whole trend about the change agent is getting too old now. The millennials are like, no, game changers is a better term. Let's not be hooked on the wording. You know who you are in your heart. It's like having to have tattoos to recognize your identity. I don't have anything against tattoo. I had some myself, but we have this inner recognition. We know who we are. I know that people around me get transformed. I don't even have to do anything. It's in me. We're a transformational agent, whether you call yourself a conscious entrepreneur, an impact investor, a healer, a change agent, a game changer. What else did I say? Is there any, am I missing out?
That's really good.
Heart-centered leader. Yeah. It was featured on my website, heart-centered leaders.co. So whichever you are, basically we are with under the same umbrella. So we really like unity. You know, this whole download I had in meditation was in alignment with a Rig Veda prayer. Not exactly what you were, but it's about like, let us be united. Let us speak in harmony. Come and be our vision. Come and be our resolution. Align be our mind. Come and be our feelings. And perfect be our unity. And perfect be our unity. Can take that in. And so that's the vision. Just saying it shifts my whole energy. I'm like, oh, that's the vision. Can we come together? And so that's not great to have categories and different movement and association will create different support for her to do good. And we'll talk about the B Corp for benefits. Wonderful, wonderful. And let's use all this for support and be friends with each other, not create division is my invitation here. And so we're going to go right in. Are we ready?
Yeah, let's dive into the keys.
Am I speaking too much?
Oh, no.
We're still women speak more than men, but
yeah.
I'm going to let him speak now. Okay,
yeah.
You're gonna enjoy his deep knowledge. And
let's dive into the keys.
Yeah. So the 7 keys to using business as a vehicle for change. We have the key number 1, which is starting where you are without the need for associations or movements. Starting wherever you are without the need for association for any associations or movements. And I'm going to let Stephen talk about that first key to begin with. What do you have to share?
Yeah, so what this key brings up for me and contemplating on starting where you are, it's you know, this is certainly a practice, you know, for us individually, but as an organization, if we're really embracing some new changes that are going to position our company to create the greatest impact in the world and create, you know, systemic change, then we need to start where we are. And there's a lot of different pathways to embodying this as an organization, as a company, as a business. And, you know, some of these, you know, the B Corp movement, the for benefit movement, the conscious capital movement, the holacracy movement, you know, all of these are templates and pathways to helping your organization to create this great impact. And these types of certifications and associations, they've come and gone my whole journey within business. You know, back in the ISO 9000 certification days, I've been through that exercise, and there's all these things that come with those associations. It's you know, the green movement had what they called the halo effect. You know, it's like, oh, you're doing something good in the world, you get this halo around your business, which is true. And what we're suggesting in this key is really that you don't require any of that. You know, as the classic Gandhi thing is, you know, be the change. You are the change. You already are that change right where you're at, and start there. Start embodying that change right where you are as a company. Start pulling together the leadership within your organization to craft how you're going to embrace that as a company and as a business model in the world, so that you can have maximum impact. And I think that's really the suggestion. This key is don't wait until you have all your ducks in a row to match one of these movements or associations. Start right where you are. Allow those to be guiding lights and guiding systems for you, and also find your own way, because it's really important that you follow that inner compass, that you know, true north for you as a visionary entrepreneur, as a conscious entrepreneur who's looking to create change in the world, and to embrace that. So yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And what I just would add to it on a more practical level is that so it starts with you even watching this is because you have a goal or desire or longing to use your business to do better, whether it's a startup phase or you've already in profit, a longing to do more, different. There's something here. So that's the good start. That's where you start. But then something may stop you, and most of the time is whether it's an individual or a company, it's time or money that stops you. You go to a B Corp certification resource online, you find out it's $500 every 2 years, and you're like, you know what, I'm a startup. I'd rather use my $500 in marketing right now. It's not, you know, like you're trying to, what do you call bootstrap in English? Bootstrapping your startup or whatever the expression is.
Bootstrap,
yeah, right, in French. So, and so what we also mean by start where you are is you don't need the crutch of starting by having this budget for associating yourself with whether it's this or that, this movement or that movement. But there are information on Google for free, and you can gather information to say, oh, what are some of the, if that's mindfulness, oh, I wanted to train all my people in this mindfulness training. It's definitely not part of the budget, but maybe we can find something a little inexpensive, approachable, and learn group meditation and start with that, just like we had the centering in the beginning of this call. Where there's no way, there's a way, basically. And so that's really what that key means. And there is even free groups now. We're building a conscious entrepreneur group just for that too, and we're starting humbly on Facebook, and then we'll move into a different platform. But so
yeah, there's a great example we talked about in preparing for this was Patagonia.
Oh yeah,
Patagonia is the first for-benefit corporation to be registered in the United States, here in the state of California. And Patagonia had embodied its conscious practices many years before that. And I discovered in spending time with their former CEO, Casey, that the length that they had gone to embody conscious practices in all of their resourcing of materials for their products, their labor practices, their economic practices. I mean, they really went to any length to do that well before this for-benefit status ever even existed. So they were the model for that. They became the template for that. They became the very first company to represent that. So that's an example of starting where you are. Patagonia said, we're going to do it different. And
I love that example. Thank you for having that. Isn't it
absolutely
awesome? Yeah. Key number 2, reevaluate or establish company core values. Reevaluate or establish company core values. So you know you are again, if you're a startup specifically, but at any stage, is the first thing you're going to think about is most of the time a business plan that includes a vision and a mission. And what I always tell people, because you would be surprised how many people do not do this. Like, it's a key number 2, because we've seen, having doing consulting with a lot of company, how many company does not create core values. Yet, if you look at yourself in your individual life as an individual, you realize that everything you do has an underlying propeller, which is your value. And when it doesn't, there is an emotional disharmony or in disharmony with your environment and yourself. Let's say you have a value of integrity and you are lying. Suddenly there's a discord that's happening. So imagine on the level of a corporation or an enterprise, right? It's like all these individuals that need to come together as a collective to align with the values, because all of them have power, and the power together is magnified by this value alignment. And you are the master of value, and so I know you. It's even part of this new economic model that you're creating. So what would you add to that key, and why is it so important?
Yeah, it's amazing, and certainly core values is an imperative for us individually, but even more so on a conscious venture within business, because what I've written about in the holonomic perspective and embracing a new economic paradigm really is that the measure of how we ascribe value. How do we ascribe value to those things that bring our products and services to life? And how do those products and services live in the world once they've gone out into the world? And the degree of impact is directly associated with the core values that form the underpinning for how that product or service even came to be, and whether the people who contributed to the value of that product or service were honored or not. And core values sets the table for that. I used to always like to say this when I was consulting: it's not enough to have a transformational product or service to put in the world if the organization who's putting it in the world isn't transformational itself. And so core values anchor that. Core values anchor that. And what's important about core values is that all the stakeholders involved in the organization need to know what those core values are, that there's an alignment process that has to take place. So if there's a nugget within this key, if you're a conscious entrepreneur and you're like, well, I want to embrace core values, I want to establish core values, I want to reevaluate my core values for my organization, the real key there is in the transference of that and the deep understanding of what's within each core value by all the team members, all the stakeholders, so that they can line up with you. That way it's unified, as Ishwari so powerfully spoke into at the beginning invitation, is this unifying prayer, right? And core values unify. I did some work, some spiritual work a long time ago that talked about the principle of straightforwardness, right? And that it's important that we be straightforward in asking for what we want. But if you dig a little deeper into straightforwardness, you realize that in order to ask for what you want, you actually have to know what you want. And that right there is the pentacle of core values. What do you want to create in the world? Well, you need to trace that all the way back to what kind of core values are going to create that in the world. Is it integrity? Is it honesty? Is it impeccability? Is it playfulness? Is it, what are the qualities that are going to, so those are as important infusions into your product or service as the raw materials are. In fact, I would say those are raw materials than actual, physical things.
Oh,
right.
Well said.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I really love your perspective.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, and there's so much more to talk about. I just want to mention, because I did in the beginning, that we will expand on all these 7 keys in different, in a series of live broadcasts. Yeah. So that we'll have more time for that.
Number three.
You want to read it?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
All right. Make whatever change for good your organization is embracing a cultural imperative. Yeah. Make whatever change for good your organization is embracing a cultural imperative.
Well, tell us more about this one.
Yeah. Well, kind of jumping off from key number 2 was, about how these core values need to propagate within all the stakeholders. That's part of the cultural imperative. It's this is to me, we're kind of in an era of embodied awareness. It's not enough to have an intellectual understanding and, oh, this is good for the planet or this is good for our community, or we drop into our hearts and there's a whole feel-good feeling. It's like, that's great. Or we really feel the fire in our belly, like we're making change in the world. We have this sacred activism, pledge going on within our entire organization. That's all great. And like, well, how do we, how does that become a cultural imperative? That we really have to give time to the messaging and making sure that all the stakeholders are included in creating that culture. So cultural dynamics is something to embrace. So if you're not comfortable in cultural dynamics, it's something to really, it's an important key to walking the talk, because what I've found and what I've seen with other entrepreneurs is we need the support of the entire stakeholder community in order to stay the course of this vision, because a lot of these change models require a radical difference than what we were taught in school. A radical difference than what the status quo has been. A radical difference of what tradition says this is how you conduct yourself in business. The whole paradigm, the whole thought process is different. And so to create a cultural imperative is to surround yourself with like-minded individuals and to help stay the course. So that would be my 2 cents.
Yes. Yeah. And what I would add to those 2 sentences is let's imagine, Yoda, the character Yoda. Yeah. Well, Yoda, imagine Yoda with a French accent. That would be me. I will say, to add to this key number 3, make whatever change for good your organization is embracing a cultural imperative. I would say, let's see if I can do Yoda, French Yoda. Don't just do, be. That's not bad. I'll try again. Yeah. Don't just do, be. So don't just do, be. Yes. What do I mean by that is what's imperative is this integrity between the inner and the outer. Whatever some company, Stephen illustrated so well, some company will be almost like sort of obsessed about a certain impact in the world, and be, this is the key, and there's a key actually a little later in this where we talk about change, the change of change actually, but so we want to be able to match, like a lot of people or company may just focus on one aspect and not see that in sort of integrity in every aspect. The inner, which is the way they behave in the company, the practices how they operate, and so there need to be a match for everything, for the effectiveness, for the result, for the quality of what you want to create as an impact. So that's all I wanted to just to make it a little bit like with the Yoda, the French Yoda. I hope you enjoyed the French Yoda. Key number. You're welcome. So key number 4.
Key number 4 is to set up your company culture, more culture. Set up your culture so that it's nimble and adaptive. To ensure staying a force of good in an ever-changing business climate in the marketplace, right? So this key it's vital, because commerce is always moving. It's perpetual. It's perpetually alive, and dynamics within it are changing, and we all, they say that change and evolution is exponentially growing today. What technology we used yesterday, there's 10 new ones today. And it's like, yeah, well, so that means as an organization, it's important, it's a key for us that we design our organizations to be nimble and agile, right? So that we can adapt to that ever-changing climate. Because if we rigidify and say, we're setting up all of everything to be this one way, and then the marketplace shifts, then our ability to make maximum impact will not keep up with the change. And so we want to match the evolutionary nature of commerce and the marketplace within our organization, so that we stay loose, that we're wearing loose-fitting clothes, right? We're not all buttoned up and tied down, and this is who, you know, who we are. The old IBM blue suit was kind of the old marker in the day. It was like that used to be the classic thing, and what happened was IBM struggled for a while there because they had this really rigid, in the tech development world, what they called waterfall methodology, and what started to happen is all these emerging companies that were practicing agile development came along and started to really create critical mass. And so that's just a little nugget of it. But, you know, be adaptive, be nimble, be nimble.
And thank you so much, Stephen. I'll take this to a level underneath this, which is at the source of it, what in us as individual likes change fundamentally, and what's in us that likes sameness. Whether you're deep in your spiritual practices as an individual, or you've heard a couple books, or you have some knowledge, you know the answer to that question, which is ego, or this identification with the limited individual that we play in this lifetime, is that part of us that doesn't like change. And just bear with me as I'm going somewhere with that, by the way. And then the part of us that likes change, this is sort of a youth spirit within us that is this thing that you may want to call your higher self, your soul, your spirit, your God self, whatever you want to choose to call that part of you. But that part is in complete alignment with a bigger essence than our own limited individual self. And what that number 4 to me as a spiritual being living in a human body is inviting us is to realize how important it is to have some sort of level of spiritual alignment in order to move with change with greater ease. Because by essence, if there's something you see in the world that you really want to change, if it's coming from ego, all it'll create is division and rigidity, and there will be results, but they're not as effective. We have to be able to remember that in essence, it can shock some of you, but in essence, there is a perfection, an innate perfection. And within the appearing chaos, there is a reordering via a series of principles. One of is karma. And karma can only be understood when we actually believe that life happens beyond life. So we're getting a little I don't want to get too airy, but there's a bigger picture of all that. And if we don't have an awakening to really be a conscious entrepreneur, an impact investor, an heart-centered leader, or a change agent, and game changer, that it has to also have that inner. And then this key is going to be, because you're now in alignment, you will see that who knows that we created global warming. And if your whole company is trying to eradicate global warming from, is there a possibility that in 20 years we already can, by the way, but prove in the shadow of a doubt that there's a cycle with the sun that creates global warming. Let me, as an example, that we have nothing to do, and yet we still want the earth to be cleaner, and we're still going to apply ourselves to make an impact in that, but not for the same reason. So that change wouldn't happen if you're in this stiff, rigid, limited belief about what's going on. Is that a good example?
Yeah.
Was I?
Yeah.
you know, and so I don't want to, so that's a, I wanted to take it a little deeper this time, but we'll have plenty of time to talk about that. And please, the Facebook group, if you have any comment about what you're hearing, the Change Agent Hub group is available for you to communicate with us. You want to read key number 5?
Key number 5 is to create enrollment process for all your stakeholders. And this is really to really create a mission orientation. So there's an enrollment process, right? So we talked about cultural imperative, but actually we have to stop long enough. And one of the keys to having that cultural imperative be a reality in our experience is we have to go through an enrollment process. So we know why we're creating the type of models and possibilities and impact in the world that we're dedicated to individually, but how does that transfer, and how do we know that the people we're hiring, or the vendors that we work with, or the investments that we're bringing in, or that our customers are even actually understanding what we're about and what our mission is. And so it's important to stop and look at the enrollment process. What kind of process are you going to use? I mean, is it interactive? Are you going to have dynamic, all hands on deck meetings? Or are you going to create a gamification process that enrolls people? I mean, what is that? And so that's a whole universe unto itself, is how do you enroll the stakeholders into your mission orientation? And consider that. I mean, everything from branding to packaging to messaging to communication models to what part of that is part of employee training, and how vital is that to transfer those insights? And so just encourage you to embrace this key as well, which is create an effective enrollment process around your mission.
And thank you. And so it seems like I always bring it to the energetic level. It's not that I do this all the time. It's just like this is what's arising. So look at this light right here. Look at this. This is beautiful. Again, we changed the time, and it's morning, and the sun is rising, and the statue right behind is Kuan Yin, and you could see her in the beginning. Now she's illuminated. She's the goddess of compassion, the beloved, Buddha's beloved. And so right here it's pretty dark, yet we know it because it's now provable in quantum physics. Everything is energy. But this frequency right here, very different than that frequency. When you say like this is like pretty dark, right here it's really dark, right? This is very dark. So I personally love the light. I'd love to stand here rather than here. You can see the difference between entering a church and entering a bar where they just had a fight, and there's this dense energy. So everything is energy, yes, but not in the same frequency. So you imagine the energy disorder, if I could say, when your consumer don't know what you have at stake in the company in terms of this new desire to make the company be a force of good, or even your service providers and all stakeholders basically. And then when you enroll them, not only there's this unity, we're talking unification. People get afraid of the word unification. Oh my God, I'm going to lose my identity. No, not when we are now power. That was the old way. Now we're rising into a place that it's the difference between the word codependency and interdependency. So this unification is very interdependent. It's a very important distinction. Yeah, and so the other thing I wanted to say also about this key, and then we'll move up to key number 6, is that on the more physical level, on the more statistic level, is that there is a survey that found out that 15%, that the millennial will accept 15% less in their salary if they work with a company who has values of making a difference in the environment, or a value of mindfulness in the inside, like a different practices that helps the company's employees connect with each other at a different level and make a difference in the world. And they'll actually accept a lower paycheck to be with a company like that. And we also know on the consumer side, same thing. Consumer want to help company who is doing good. So let's tell them, let's enroll everybody. That's key number 5. And key number 6, balance both the inner and outer expression of whatever changes your organization is embracing. And I know you have a great example. You have a great example. You told me about Clorox the other day.
Oh yeah. Back in the day when we started Eco Media, we were kind of in front of the green movement in the early 2000s, and every company was jumping on the bandwagon, right? And this whole term of greenwashing started to arise, because it was like people were scratching their head. It's like, Clorox saying that they were a green company because they recycled their office paper, and yet the toxicity from their factories was dumping waste into rivers and streams. And it was like, well, the outer wasn't exactly matching the inner. It's like they had a great intention in embracing, the recycling of their office paper. Great. And how about cleaning up your manufacturing practices at the same time? So that was just a little example of the inner and the outer. And Ishwari, this is one of your passionate keys. I would say it's a hallmark of the change agent movement. Yes. And change agent hub is around this.
Well, it's like an inner could be your values. For instance, you have, let's say, it's a silly thing. I'm going to give you, because I'm a lady and I speak with ladies, and my environment in terms of colleagues and friends is people who have a high value of non-toxicity. Let's put it that way. No chemical world. But there's areas where there is a compromise, and I see a lot of women who have this value of no chemicals, who put chemicals on their body just to look good. So now there's a value battle inside you: the looking good and the chemical-free or healthy lifestyle. You have sort of a fight. So imagine you do this on the collective level as a company. It's already difficult to have this inner battle on the individual levels, but then on the collective, when you have these inner values that are not matching the outer behavior, it's very obvious to me, but maybe it's just me, that it's going to affect everything, eventually your bottom line. Of course, it's a long road to actually see the connections, the cause and effect that I love to talk about. But it makes me think of one of my mentors. He used to read me this poem all the time. He's like, "Who you are speaks so loudly I cannot hear what you say." Right? I mean, that's an example of where your outer and inner aren't matching. Yes. So if the organization's reputation out in the world is one thing, but internally you're talking this whole other game, then there's a mismatch. That's awesome. Thank you for adding this. We're being illuminated by the light. It's so cute. And this is now number 7. Trust the process of shifting your company's culture and new focus of being a force of good in the world. I'll say it one more time. Trust the process of shifting your company's culture and new focus of being a force of good in the world. Trust the process. That's it. Trust the process.
Trust the process.
Key number 1, it's start here, and key number 7 is trust the process and everything in between. And so it's a little bit of an interesting sandwich. start where you are and trust the process. They really go well together. It's like those yogi scripture aphorism, like the keys, they have like a little bit of a nugget to open the other door and the other door, and we did it on purpose. This was a co-creation, by the way, Stephen and I. And so I like to talk about the short-term pain for long-term gain, and actually Stephen is also really good talking about that. To everything there is a cycle, and as I love also to make the comparison business and individual, because it's really the same thing. These are entity. I'm an entity, and it's just a larger entity. But we are a lot of the time rule under the same principle. And so a process has cycles, and cycles have ups and downs because we're in a duality plane. Where there's up, there's down. Where there's light, there's darkness. When there's happiness, there's unhappiness. It's just the way we are on this realm, on this 3D plane, if you wish. And so because of that, the process of taking on change may shake up the company a little bit, but if you trust the process, you will understand that eventually when you sort of get yourself back on your feet from a little bit of shaking from that transformation and reorientation, what's going to happen is a longer success at all levels, and there is no short terms of information online of people who are using their business as a force of good. You can even go to Andrew's website, Game Changers. So he's creating badges to help finding out who are the best for benefit company in terms of their impact in the company and out and their outer impact, of course. And you can see the first 500 company and see that they're very successful company. So that it begins with letting go of believing that this is going to be too time consuming, too expensive to make change. It's not. If there is maybe a little bit in the short term, it's for a long-term gain. So that's my part. You want to add something to it?
Yeah, I think this key is really anchored in a core value of sorts, which is trust. And trusting ourselves, trusting our mission, trusting our vision, that where we're headed actually leads somewhere. Embracing change oftentimes, can seem slow, and but we need to trust that it's moving somewhere. And so they say, good things come to those who wait. So having a little patience.
I like that.
Having a little fortitude, some perseverance, some stick-to-itness. You will arrive at the fulfillment of your mission. So
yes.
That's it. Trust the process.
Trust the process.
Yeah.
Communicate to us about this information. You can join us on Facebook at the Change Agent Hub. It's a group we just started, and engage. This is we are on it every day.
Yeah.
And we'd love to hear from you, really. How can we support you? What do you want to hear? What do you want to hear less of? What do you want to hear more of? This is all just a new beginning for us as well. And we're not here preaching to you. We want to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And so also you can email us at info@thechangeagentsummit.com, thechangeagentsummit.com, info@thechangeagentsummit.com.
Good deal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we will be in touch with you about
our next broadcast.
The broadcast, which will be the first key of those 7 keys.
All right.
Until then, be well. Much love. Namaste.
Namaste.